Hey, middle-aged gamers! Welcome back. It is Adam and I again, and the OG crew is alive and well. We've got a few stories to talk about today. Those being on my end, right? I want to talk about the Steam Deck versus the Switch, or the Switch 2 in some people's cases. We're also going to talk about uh, The Girl Who Steals Time, which is a game that just sort of occurred to me. Was going to talk about the Elder Scrolls Oblivion on Game Pass and how Game Pass is having a really good month. If you've never thought about it, maybe you want to consider it, but we still also suggest people to support the developers. And Adam's side, we're going to talk about The Doll's Nest, which is something I just recently saw. Ghost of Yōtei, of course. Go back and watch Adam's old Ghost of Tsushima videos. And tips for Clair Obscur, a release date for Wutong, and maybe more things down the line if we have the time. But Adam, tell us about Doll's Nest. I saw it and I was a bit taken aback by the flashy nature of the game.
Yeah, so Doll's Nest, imagine it's 2018 and an Armored Core has not come out in 6 years. So what do? Well, the guys at Nitro Plus decided to make their own, and they were somewhat, they did an interview with, I think it's Automaton, and they were saying that they were somewhat blindsided when From Software announced IC6 4 years into development, but they did say that there are some differences between the two games, and so they're very happy that Armored Core 6 came out, and they feel that their game is going to be able to stand out on its own. So a bit of background on Nitro Plus. They have predominantly done visual novels, and that might give you a hint of what makes their game slightly different. But they did say that some of their core philosophies when making any game, not just this one, is if it doesn't exist, or it doesn't exist, so make it. And the other one was, they said in the interview, to take something completely niche and turn it into an experience that players can enjoy, not targeting the masses, might be what made this a Nitro Plus like project. So their idea is, hey, you know what? Don't make a game that's going to appeal to everyone. Make a game that's niche. Make a game that's only designed to appeal to a very certain group. And that's kind of what they're doing. And so specifically for their example, when it comes to this game versus Armored Core, they said, considering the timing and everything, it would have been less risky for us business-wise to create a mecha action game more aligned with Armored Core 6, as it would have had a wider appeal. However, that would have just turned into a clone game, leaving little room for us to leave our mark as creators. So I'm very happy with it. I've said it before that gaming should be for everyone, but not every game should be for everyone. I'm very pro niche, so I'm very happy that they came out with this. And it looks like kind of what they were going for, because they said the last game, that had come out when they started planning for this was Armored Core 5. This game seems to be more in line with some of the older Armored Cores whereas Armored Core 6 went in a very new direction. They had that whole stagger system. There was more about like dueling, so you had like the auto lock and stuff like that, or you had the lock-on system and then whatnot. So, this seems to be going more in the direction of older Armored Cores, because that's where they drew their inspiration from. So, if you're a fan of older Armored Cores, maybe you want to check this out. But there is one key difference that might turn some people off, but we'll get into that for a little bit, in a little bit. So anyway, this game like I said, has been in development for quite some time. And it released just this last week, on April 24th, but it is only on Steam, but it is pretty cheap. It's only $20 US, which is really, really great. They say the gameplay is obviously very similar to Armored Core in a lot of ways. You can customize your doll. You've got, your mobility module, which are your legs. You've got your headset, which is the head. You've got a hanger module, which is kind of like a shoulder thing where you can put your rear weapons. You've got a thruster module, which is, your booster. You've got your utility module, which allows you to have like special things. You got your primary arms, which are, the guns that you're holding, and then your rear arms, the ones that are on your shoulders. But they said that what's going to make this mostly different is that this game is going to have more emphasis on exploration. So a lot of times, in especially the newer Armored Core, you can explore. There's a lot to see in some of these levels, and you can, go around and find secrets. But this game is going to be much more about finding things and exploring the environment than an Armored Core is. And they even have like NPCs that you can interact with, and as you do certain things, these NPCs are going to move around on the map, so you find them, then you have to find them again. So this is coming in from their visual novel roots. So they're coming, they're going to have a little more of a story there, and meeting new people and whatnot. But the gameplay loop itself is going to be very much Armored Core. You take your doll out on a mission, you make money, you gear up, and then you go back out there and get back in. So what's going to make this game mostly different, like I said, is the exploration. But also, you may have noticed when I listed all the parts that you're going to be having, I didn't mention a core. There is no core to these armored cores because your core is going to be this little anime girl. All right. So you have your anime girl. She's totally customizable too, and she's your core. And then basically you load up all your armor on her. So it's basically this girl wearing armor as opposed to a giant mech. So you're a tiny mech, and you know that might turn some people off. But hear me out. You know the trailer looks really really good. This does look like classic Armored Core. You know they've got the boosting and the flying around and the landing and everything. It looks really really cool. They also have some customization. You know, they also have all the customization that you had in the Armored Core, not just with the building of your mechs themselves, but they also, you know, you can color them. They have tuning, so you can go in there and you can say like, okay, I want a little more barrier power. So they have like an overshield kind of thing, which is I guess a bit more like Armored Core 4. You know, and then that's going to recharge. So that's a very common thing in games these days. So you can increase that. You can increase basically your BP cap, which is like the amount of ammunition that you have. So your guns generate ammunition. So I guess they have like a battery supply. You know, you can increase your energy. You can, make yourself more lightweight. So you can do that. You can make it so you get more items when you destroy enemies. You know, you make your increase your accuracy, increase your reload speed. So you can go in there and you can tweak all these little things on your character. And and one of the things that actually I really really like was I was going through and I was looking at it and they said, oh, you know, one of the things I noticed that it said is manual. I went to their website and then there was a little thing that said manual and I was like, games don't come with manuals anymore. What? This is something you don't see every day. So I went through and yeah, it's a web page, but it's very similar to the old manuals that you would have. So it'd be like, okay, these are all the status effects that you're going to experience in the game. This is what they all mean, and this is what they all do, and these are all your parts, and these are how your parts work, and here's your button layout and all that. And so I spent a good amount of time yesterday just looking through the manual, and I was like, this itself is a hit of nostalgia right here, going through a manual and being like, oh, okay, so that's what this stat is, or this is what immunity means. This is what, that means, or this means, and this is what acid does. So I was really excited with that. So that was really fun for me to do. So yeah, it looks really cool. If you're an old Armored Core fan, I know a lot of people might not like that anime aesthetic. A lot of people are turned off by that. But I mean, just look at the gameplay itself and think about it. You know, it might be worth giving it a chance. I know 𝙬𝙧𝙎𝙪 is supposed to be a relatively short game. So, and my next game on the list was Death Stranding, which doesn't come out till June. So I might have some time between the two. I might actually be checking this one out as my next game. So if you're an old school Armored Core fan and you played Armored Core 6 and you enjoyed it, but you're like, I really do kind of miss that older Armored Core feel, check out Doll's Nest. $20 on Steam, out right now.
That is a good price. $20 is very affordable. I mean, it's just like 𝙬𝙧𝙎𝙪 as well, $30. I was so surprised when it came out. But coming back, this is the game. Like when you're talking about Doll's Nest, I'm like, oh my god, this is not the game I was thinking of. I saw another Armored Core mech style game. A trailer dropped yesterday and it was very like luminescent. And they gave you in the title of the YouTube video, it was like, hey, bright lights warning. And there's so many flashy bright lights. This looks really interesting. I mean, and I love that visual novel studios and sort of like I think I've seen a few of these sort of like where a studio makes this kind of game, similar to the Lies of Sophia, the game that we talked about like a few weeks ago, right? Again, another studio which made really crazy, weird games before, taking a branch is like let's take a chance, let's make something new and innovative, or bring back nostalgia, like you said, focusing on that niche. So I'm looking forward to watching you play it if it does come out. Oh, I should say if you do play it.
Yeah, it is out for sure. Yeah.
Okay. And on that note, I'm going to talk about the Steam Deck versus the Switch because I've seen a lot of arguments about this online, and so I'm going to tell you straight up, right? Do not buy a Steam Deck in 2025. And a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, you said it!" Yes, I did, because I bought a Steam Deck basically because I have, out of all my 3 game collections, I guess 4, like Switch, iPad, PC, MacBook, I guess would be the 4th one. My Steam collection is the largest with 790 games and going up, so it'd probably be 800 and something by the time the year ends. That's why I got a Steam Deck. I'm like, yes, I can play all this stuff on the Steam Deck, and it's wonderful. And the Steam Deck is wonderful, but it's definitely meant for a person who has time to play around with stuff. And I encountered an issue yesterday where, and I've had this issue before, where I start up my Steam Deck, right? And I cannot use my controllers, right? Like basically, I can only use the touchscreen. And what's happened before is I'm like, okay, restart the Steam Deck, and that fixes the problem. And then yesterday, I restarted. I'm like, no, I still can't use the controllers. And if you can't use the controllers, you can't use your Steam Deck. So I had to spend time, my available 1 hour of gaming time, researching how do I fix this issue. And I'm like, oh, okay, you have to go into desktop mode. And after desktop mode, you have to go back into Steam. And then it works, right? And I'm like, okay, why? And then by the time I fixed all of that, right, my 1 hour of gaming was down to 45 minutes, and I was upset. Which is why I sent Adam a philosophical question, like, what if we could play games every day for 30 days and not have to worry about crazy stuff? Like, I would be so happy. But I mean, coming back to like real issues, right? So a Steam Deck is still a wonderful device if you have the time to play around with the settings, because there's a lot of stuff like I was having performance issues with Marvel's Midnight Suns. I mean, how you'd fix that is, right, you'd sort of increase the power that the Steam Deck is using, improve the power to the GPU, play around with different settings, and then you'd get it, right? Whereas with a console, and I've talked about this before, is the wonderful thing is that the developer has a fixed set of hardware, which is why when they're making a game for it, right, it can run at 4K 60 on Adam's TV, right? Because it knows, like, yes, everyone's connecting this to their 4K TV. Their 4K TV is running at 60 or 120 frames per second, depending on the TV. That's it. Now, that's the downside of physical PC hardware, and even the Steam Deck itself, right? The Steam Deck itself has varied hardware between the original LED model and the Steam Deck model. There's also Steam OS as well. There's also different settings. So like, yes, let's make this. I mean, that's why out of the millions of games on Steam, right? All right, Adam, I'm going to mute you while you're clicking away.
Touching anything.
Okay, so what was I saying? So out of the million games on Steam, there's a bunch. Oh God, I've lost my train of thought. All right. So out of the million games on Steam, right? This is why there's that thing on the bottom right-hand corner when you go to Steam webpage. It's called Steam Verified. And even that, like the Elder Scrolls Remastered, which is the second story I'm going to talk about today, is Steam Deck verified. Even that is not as accurate as it was when the Steam Deck first came out, because people will tell you, yes, the Elder Scrolls will run on a Steam Deck, Oblivion Remastered, I should say, but it won't run great, and it will look kind of terrible, not like some of the other games. Like Marvel's Midnight Suns runs well. So it's like, yeah, coming back to the million games on Steam available, 100 and something, like out of my 800 games, 120 or so are Steam Deck verified. And even out of those 120, Steam Deck verified doesn't mean what it should mean. It means like, yes, these games can be played, they're gonna look good, but it doesn't. Like Marvel's Midnight Suns is not Steam Deck verified, but I have to do it through the Heroic Games launcher in order to do that, to run Epic Games, in order to play that, and then it runs fine, and it actually runs well, but I still had to go online, like, how do I get this game to run well? Whereas compared with the Switch, right, or a Switch 2, most of the games, I would say 80% of the games, when you drop them into your Switch 2, are going to run well, especially initially when the Nintendo Switch 2 comes out. It's going to be that initial time where developers have had time, especially your first-party Mario Kart games, your Breath of the Wild, $20 extra to get it to the Switch 2 versions, right? All of that is going to run amazingly. Nintendo's going to make sure, because they do want to deliver quality. And as you're getting older, right, you just want to play games for your 1 hour or your 30 minutes or your 45 minutes, right? You don't want to waste time playing around with settings. So this doesn't just apply to the Steam Deck, it applies to the Asus ROG Ally, it applies to the MSI Claw, it applies to the Zotac Gaming Zone. I mean, any of these handhelds, they're wonderful devices for portable gaming, and especially for PC portable gaming, but they're not meant, at least in my opinion, for people who don't have time to sort of optimize settings, right, to make the best out of it, because for a lot of games these days, they will just not run. These games will not run well out of the box on your Steam Deck or your Asus ROG Ally. So if you haven't already pro'd a Nintendo Switch 2, you should probably get one if you do want a portable gaming solution. If you're like, yes, I've seen all my friends playing it on the train from Worcester, Massachusetts to Boston, Massachusetts, which is where I used to take to go to work, right? I want a portable game for 30 minutes or 45 minutes in the morning. Yeah, get a Switch 2. Don't even bother with the Steam Deck until we get to a place where all these consoles are unified by some unified hardware like a Steam OS or something like that, or there's some sort of unifying mechanism to make all these games run well, just run well and save you time, because at the moment that doesn't exist. Sorry, go ahead, Ed.
No, that's okay. Am I on
You gotta
mute?
unmute yourself first. Please.
So inconvenient. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't clicking on anything there.
But I kept on hearing clicks for some reason. So, but I hear it now.
Well, now I'm clicking because I have to pop up all my windows again because I had to pop up the other window to cancel out the thing. I don't know, but yeah, no, I for me, I think it's mostly about like what games you're gonna play. I mean, like obviously Nintendo is gonna get a lot of more third-party games on Switch 2, so that's definitely a plus. But yeah, I mean, if they're not gonna have like Hearthstone, I don't think, right? Did they have Hearthstone?
People have wanted it, so we'll have to wait and see if it actually happens.
Yeah, so yeah, for me, I guess it would be a combination of what games are going to be coming out and how many games you already have in your library that are Steam Deck compatible. I mean, if you have games that aren't Steam Deck compatible, then it's a non-issue because you can't play those games either way. But yeah, if I were gonna go, I'd probably go Switch 2 as well. But I don't know, it's kind of pricey, and yeah, like I've said before, for me, it would be a very niche case use because if I'm playing games on the big TV in the living room. I'm usually not playing in bed because if I play in bed, my wife will roll over and smack me and say, "Go to sleep," so I'm not going to be playing in bed. It's too bright. I can't even read comics in bed usually.
We're in the same boat there, where like my partner, she's like in the bedroom, it's total blackout, no cell phones, no whatever, and I just like it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I have a little lamp on the side of my bed, and I guess it's different too. Like for me, like I grew up in a big family, so if somebody's awake, somebody's making noise, lights are on somewhere, so I can just sleep in the middle of a noisy classroom. I go to school, and if I'm tired, I'll just fall asleep anywhere. But I guess yeah, she's sensitive to light and that sort of thing. So yeah, she's like, "Oh, I go to sleep," So I'm not playing in bed. So the only time I'd be playing is pretty much if I'm traveling, like if I'm on a plane or if we go like on vacation somewhere, and we go down to the beach or something, and we come back to the hotel room and she's just taking a nap, and then I would play while she was taking a nap or something like that. So it's very niche, but I don't know if that's enough to justify. I don't know if that's justifiable at the price. The original Switch price, yeah, I could definitely see that being a justifiable price, but the Switch 2 price, it's kind of like for something I'm probably only going to be playing at most once a month for a couple hours. So like only maybe some months I'll be playing it, multiple times, but other months I won't touch it for like 4 or 5 months. I don't know, but yeah, if I had to choose, I'd probably go Switch 2. Just for the exclusives, I really like Metroid. I really like Zelda. So
yeah, no. I mean, you sort of echoed the sentiment my older brother has, where he's had a Steam Deck for a while. He was the first one out of the three of us who got like a portable gaming thing, and he never played it, despite taking the tube from his house to his workplace and stuff, and having time to sort of play something for 20-30 minutes. For him, he'd rather use this time to listen to an audiobook or read the news or do some reading on the train, that sort of stuff. So whereas for me, like I've dedicated time, and I like this because I'm stuck in front of this computer, and you guys have heard me talk about it before. Like I like the fact that I can go into my really comfortable IKEA chair and just game for an hour and not look at the screen, look at the window outside and the wonderful sunshine we have in Kaohsiung. And I enjoy that part of it, right? And when I do game on this PC and work at this PC, I do feel a little bit uncomfortable physically for some reason, but that's another story. Anyway, let's move on. Adam, tell us about Ghost of Yōtei. Even though I have yet to play Ghost of Tsushima, I have to wait a few years until I forget you streaming it. But tell us about the new game.
All right, so we got a little bit more news on Ghost of Yōtei. They dropped a... I'm playing the wrong video here. I'm so sorry, guys. So we got a little bit more news on Ghost of Yōtei. They kind of shadow dropped a new trailer. We got a release date. The release date of Ghost of Yōtei is going to be October 2nd, 2025. And this is a problem for me because I was like, yeah, October, Halloween. I want to play Silent Hill F. You know, that's my plan. And I'm like, oh no, why does this game have to drop on the 2nd? Couldn't you release it like earlier in September? Or couldn't you release it later in November? Why did you have to drop it in October of all the months? But actually, I don't think Silent Hill has a release date yet. So maybe Silent Hill will release in November and then I'll just have to postpone Halloween. We're going to have to wait and see. But anyway, it is going to be dropping on October 2nd, and we got some new information on this game. There is a fun interview with Famitsu, and it's in Japanese, but you can, you know, if you have, most browsers nowadays have the would you like to translate this? So, you know, you can still kind of read it, and the translation was actually fairly good in the sense that it was understandable. So, pretty great. But we got some new information on it. So the theme of this game is revenge, but also Atsu's going to be overcoming some trauma, which is kind of interesting because in the original Ghost of Tsushima, then, you know, the theme was kind of honor, and then, you know, Jin kind of had to learn that, you know, sometimes to do the most good, you do have to kind of sacrifice your own honor in order to, for the greater good. You know, like if he's strictly adhering to this honor thing, then, you know, people were going to be dying along the way, you know, but him doing the dishonorable thing was actually a way to save more lives. And so that was kind of him coming into, you know, reconciling that. And this one, you know, revenge is going to be a really big theme, but it does say that Atsu is going to be affected by those around her. And so it looks like we might actually get the flip of that, where she's going to be a little more dishonorable, and kind of, you know, more of the outlaw. But then as she goes along, she's going to find that revenge might not be necessarily the best case, and maybe, you know, we need to look at things from a different, you know, don't allow it to consume you. So it looks like we might get kind of an inverse of Jin's journey, which is kind of an interesting little twist. I mean, it is a bit stereotypical, of course, but it is kind of an interesting twist. So we found out who the antagonists are going to be. They are going to be the Yōtei 6. They're going to be the snake, the Oni, the Kitsune, the spider, the dragon, and Lord Saito. And Atsu has a kill list. So we've seen her with this kind of banner thing with a bunch of words on it. And those words are the names of the different characters. So, you know, let's say fox, spider, dragon, that sort of thing on it. And so, you know, we see her sometimes she takes the sword and she wipes the sword off on this banner. So basically that's kind of a cool little thing, is after she defeats one of these guys, you know, she's got the blood on her sword and she uses their own blood to cross their name off the list. So this banner is going to be really important throughout the game. They say that it's going to be on her at all times, regardless of which outfit you're wearing. She's always going to have this banner thing on her, or a belt, they call it sometimes. I don't know if that's a translation thing or whatnot, but that's going to be a really big theme. And then one of the things that in the interview that was really interesting was they said the player is free to travel and challenge the 6 Yōtei clan rather than dictating it from the game side. The game is designed so that players can find the location of the Yōtei 6 on their own and take on the challenge of avenging them. So this is really exciting for me because I mentioned in our previous coverage of Ghost of Yōtei, I was kind of hoping for kind of a Mega Man thing where there was no set order of the guys you had to take out. You could take them out however you wanted. And it looks like that might be the case. So I'm kind of excited that they're doing it that way. So it's less of a linear game and more of a kind of a horror. I guess it's less vertical and more horizontal, right? You can kind of go out and defeat who you want. I don't know how they're going to do that exactly. If this was my perfect world, and this is not speculation, this is just me if I was a game designer, what I would probably do is I would just have a set of triggers for each guy where, you know, as you kill them, they get more and more paranoid. So, you know, it ups the challenge. So, you know, the first one's pretty easy. Second one's a little bit harder. And as they go, they get more challenging. But for me, also, I think that would be cool because it would give you a little more replay value. Because if I play and I kill this guy first, it's going to be, if I kill him third or kill him last, it's going to be a very different experience because he's going to be in a different location. He's going to have different defenses because he's expecting it. So I think that'd be a really cool way to do some replay value. I don't know if they're going to do that, but that's what I would have loved to see. We also got another weapon that wasn't previously mentioned. So we still know that there's the katana, the dual katana, the 𝙃𝙧𝙩, the kusarigama, and we know that there's guns. Okay, they said that gunpowder is going to be a big weapon, so not just guns, but like grenades, explosives. But we also see a spear, so a spear is also going to be another weapon in there. And they said that you're going to have different teachers for each weapon. So each weapon is going to be distinct. Each weapon is going to have... So it's going to be more like the longbow in Ghost of Tsushima, where you meet the guy who's kind of the longbow master, and he gives you the longbow, and then, as you train with him, you gain more experience with it. But you could, in theory, just totally skip him and never get the longbow. So it looks like the weapons here are going to be more like that for all your extra stuff. And they said that one of the things that they were going for is they wanted this kind of learning martial arts from scratch feel. So whereas Jin Sakai is a samurai, so he has a lot of combat experience, Atsu does not. And so... she's going to start off kind of rough, and as you go along, you're going to train with these weapons, and you're going to train with the masters, and you're going to get better with them. So I think that's kind of an interesting little thing there too, is she's going to not have, and it makes sense why she doesn't have all ththese abilities locked up from the beginning, because she has to learn them. They also say that wolves are going to play a big part in this game. So there's going to be multiple times where she's going to come in contact with wolves, and there's in the trailer when she pulls out the sword, her what do you call I guess the guard has kind of a wolf motif, and she is a lone wolf, and that sort of thing. And then they even have one of the characters mentions that she uses a term, and she says, oh, it's somebody who easily gets lost on the hunt. So wolves are going to be a big part of Atsu's thing. Will she be able to command them directly? I don't know. They do show them attacking enemies, so so they will be present. They will be combat ready, so that'll be really cool. We're also getting some representation for the Ainu people. So that character that I mentioned that was an Ainu individual, and they said that they went to Hokkaido and they met with tribal leaders, and they really wanted to incorporate them into Ghost of Yōtei. And they said also, so we're not going to be getting big cities. They did say that Yōtei at this time, or not Yōtei, but Hokkaido at this time, was a very lawless place. You had the tribal people, and the Japanese were just starting to come in, so there wasn't really an established government. So it was like the wild, wild west. So that's kind of what you're going to be getting here. It's going to be all over the place. They said that they will feature different seasons, but it's going to be more similar to Ghost of Tsushima, not Assassin's Creed Shadow. So Assassin's Creed Shadow does dynamic seasons where the game world changes over time, and you can move through the seasons, and then the seasons are going to change things. This is going to be more like Ghost of Tsushima, where different areas are going to be representing different seasons. So you go to one part of the island, and things are going to be, flowers are going to be coming into bloom, and you go to a different part of the island, and it's going to be more, gloomy and dead trees, so more like autumn, and another part's going to have snowy fields. So so rather than dynamic seasons, you're going to get different zones that are going to represent the different seasons, which is cool. But I do think the Assassin's Creed Shadows method is a little bit cooler. I would have loved to see dynamic seasons across the map, but that is hard to do, and that does take a lot of extra work to make sure that every area is modeled for every season. So I do understand why they didn't do it, but it is a little bit disappointing. So yeah, it looks great. I am completely sold. I am not in the least bit discouraged, and I'm really looking forward to this. I really like the idea of all these different weapons. I'm really hoping that they do another Legends like they did with Ghost of Tsushima. And then the different legends will probably specialize in different weapon types, or the different legends will specialize. The different legends will specialize in different weapon types. So one of them might be really good with a spear. One of them might focus on the samurai might focus on the 𝙃𝙧𝙩, or the katana. The Ronin might focus on dual katana or something like that. Or each one can maybe equip a couple different ones. So I'm really looking forward to this. Super happy. October 2nd. Look forward to it. Gonna disrupt my my typical Halloween streaming plans, but it is what it is. So
do you know a price point? Because I was just trying to look this up, like what is it gonna retail for? Are we talking like a Are we at Nintendo Switch 2 price points at this point, or are we still like a $70 PlayStation 5 game?
I would assume 70. PlayStation hasn't jumped up to the $80 price point yet, so I would assume 70 would be my guess.
What was the original game priced at?
70.
70. And I mean, and then so what was the Taiwanese dollar price out of curiosity?
I don't know.
Or did you buy this on your US account?
No, I bought this on my Taiwanese account, but Taiwanese prices are often a little bit different. And Taiwanese prices are kind of weird because, like in the US, it's almost always like, you know, $69.99, $69.99, $69.99, $69.99 across the board, right? Everything's like $70 even. Taiwanese, you'll get like $14.43, and the next one will be like $15.28, and the next one will be like $12.47. You know, they're not. It's not like there's like a fixed price and everything is that. Like they fluctuate. They're usually around the $1,400 mark, but they can, you know, sometimes they'll go into the low thousands. You know, 1,100, 1,200, and sometimes they go up higher. They go to 1,500 and stuff. So I mean, yeah, it'll be somewhere in that range.
It'll be cheaper than 70 US for Taiwanese prices.
Probably a little bit, maybe, yeah.
Okay, good. That's good. Okay, cool. I'm looking forward to the stream.
Yeah. Yeah, and definitely check out the trailer because I was reading something on, I don't remember where I was reading. I think it was one of the comments, and somebody was saying that their girlfriend was Japanese, and she was saying that there's a lot of symbolism in there. One of the, like there's a kind of leaf that if in Chinese or in Japanese superstition, if this leaf falls in front of you when you're walking, then that's a good omen. But at the end of the trailer, they showed the leaf fall in front of the screen and it gets slashed in half, and that could mean that she's actually on the wrong path. So there's apparently a lot of if you're familiar with Japanese superstitions and stuff like that, there's apparently a lot of little Easter eggs in there that I did not pick up on. So let us know if you see some.
Very cool. I'm looking forward to that. So you've probably seen it, right? Are you itching to play You've probably seen it. Are you itching to play Oblivion Remastered? Because it is all over social media, on Instagram, on Reddit, and you're like, I was telling Adam today when I was looking it up, it's like, it's alternately, whenever you look at social media, it's Clear Obscure, it's Oblivion. It's Clear Obscure, it's Oblivion. Whether it's your Google News feed or your Reddit feed or your Instagram Reels. So there's an option for you, right? It is a Game Pass. Game Pass currently is $12 a month when I looked it up. There might be different local pricing, so please check that out. Sometimes it might be more expensive, sometimes it might be a little bit cheaper. I've seen prices in South Africa. My brother was telling me when he first got Game Pass, it was R1 a month for like 3 months. So R1, to give you an idea, is like $2 which is less than $1 for a month. Which is what he paid for like 3 months in South Africa as a special offer. So you can get Oblivion Remastered today on Game Pass for paying that monthly fee. And I mean, so if you didn't want to get it on Game Pass, it'd be $50 on Steam, and your regional equivalent of whatever that is going to be. So I mean, if you could finish Oblivion Remastered in 2 months, yeah, you'd save yourself some money. But I mean, it's been an amazing month for Game Pass, and I saw this story on a few different places where they're like, yeah, on Game Pass at the moment, you have South of Midnight, you have Oblivion Remastered, you have Clear Obscure as well. There's one more good game, which I cannot remember what it is, but it's just honestly been an amazing month for Game Pass. That if you're somebody who doesn't want to pay for games outright, or you can only buy 1 or 2 games a month, this might be a good deal. $12 a month, right, is $144 a year. I do believe in some places they do have that sort of like, if you pay for a year up front, you can shave off like $1 off the price to make it like $11 or $10 a month to pay $120 a year. Please check that out. And I mean, looking at prices right now, right? Like, I mean, I paid $70 for Avowed. So with 2 premium prices games, right, you would have covered your Game Pass price. So it's definitely worth it for people. That being said, Adam's always encouraged this, and I totally agree with him that you should support the developers, because with Game Pass they do get this like lump payout. But then again, it's this video is not about arguing, you know, what if Game Pass is actually worth it for developers. It definitely helps with exposure, But let's talk about some of the other aspects of Game Pass that I think you might not have realized. Number one is with Game Pass, you do not get the deluxe editions or the premium deluxe editions with the extra skins or the extra DLC, right? When you get a Game Pass free. With Game Pass, you get the basic game, and that is it. Now, going back to like when I got Starfield, right? I got Starfield in Game Pass, and there were bugs when Starfield came out. And Game Pass version of Starfield was the last version of Starfield to be fixed, of course, because Bethesda being Bethesda, they fixed it first back in those days on the Bethesda launcher first, and then it went to Steam, and then it went to Game Pass, right? And because there are significantly less people on Game Pass than there are on Steam, for example, if you're looking for advice from your fellow gamers, you were sort of like left like, hey, here are these 1 million people on Game Pass or 2 million people on Game Pass, however many it was back then. And you were relying on those guys like, how do I fix this issue? Because the layer of Game Pass and the game and the layer of Steam and the game, of course, is very different, right? It's not the same architecture. It's not the same way it's being built. So that is another downside of Game Pass, right? Is you don't get that extra content that you usually would get with buying the game, right? You don't get the support that you might get with that as well. The other side, and I think I told Ellen this, and he was not aware, that Game Pass has a limited catalog. It's not like your Netflix, right? I saw an article about this as well. Netflix has the largest catalog out of all the streaming services, out of Hulu, out of Peacock, out of Paramount Plus, right? Out of Stan is now, there's a bunch of new ones that are sort of around the globe. So Game Pass is small. It's 100 games. That's the way it's always been. And I guess, I mean, this is the expense that Microsoft is paying, right? And 100 games is a lot, right? I mean, for some people who don't have a huge game collection, and it is 100 games for free that you can uninstall and reinstall and install again and play something and then reinstall it again. And these games are always shifting as well with Game Pass. So you might play something like a really, really long game, like an Oblivion, for example, and you might be doing everything in Oblivion, and it might be 200-300 hours, and you might find out, unlikely with Oblivion though, because it is owned by Microsoft right now, but with other games, that 2 months later, yes, this game is now rotating out of Game Pass, and you've lost your progress. So you can never come back to the game unless you actually own it again in the future. So is there any other downsides of Game Pass, right? Beyond that, not much. But it's definitely something like if you do want to experience a game, if you're somebody in your 20s, right, and you're just starting off and you are living in a New York or you're living in a Boston or you're living in a London somewhere, and the cost of living is expensive and you're making decent money, but you're paying through the teeth in rent. I forgot about this English expression, but
paying through the teeth.
Game Pass, yeah. Game Pass is definitely an option, definitely worth it. For most games, it's gonna do. It'll be perfectly fine for you. You're probably gonna get it, especially Microsoft pushing a lot of money into Game Pass. So definitely consider it. I've been meaning to go back to Game Pass at some point, but I don't think I will, just because the backlog has become so insurmountable that there's really no reason for me to go to Game Pass ever, because I just have so much stuff to play these days. But yep, that is it. Let me know what down in the comments. Did you get Game Pass for Oblivion Remastered? I'd love to know. And then I'll see you guys in the next video.
Yeah, I mean, like in the case, like you said, like in the case of Clair Obscur, support the devs. They deserve it. They did a great job. Go ahead and play that. Go ahead and buy that game. But in the case of Oblivion Remastered, I mean, Game Pass is the devs, right? It's all Microsoft now. So yeah, I mean, they're getting their money either way. I'd be kind of curious how that works with the Microsoft studios, like, because yeah, I mean, they're getting paid by Microsoft one way or the other, right? So if the studio itself makes money, or if this Microsoft is funneling money in, I don't know. I don't know if that has an impact on anything, or if I mean, from a low-level programmer, it's not going to make a difference to them. They're getting their paycheck to paycheck anyway. But yeah, I'd be kind of curious to see how that works.
I'm sure they're very much in the same boat as like a Netflix, right? Where Netflix spends X billion of dollars in content. Some content is going to make money, right? It's going to drive sales. Some content is just going to drive exposure to the platform to say, hey, let me sign up for Netflix. And I think that's what a lot of these like Bethesda games or are going to be on Game Pass for. Is going to be on Game Pass in perpetuity. And that's going to drive people to say, hey, I don't want to buy it. let me jump on here and play it, and like maybe after playing it and maybe down a few years down the line where they're making more money or they have a better job or they got a new job, they're like, yeah, man, I'm earning money. I want to own this game. I want to buy the premium deluxe super pass and get all the DLC together in one go. So I mean, I can definitely see it working out for Microsoft in that regard. Yeah.
Makes sense.
All right, and Adam, tell us, give some tips about Clair Obscura since you just mentioned it.
Yeah, no, I did just mention it, didn't I? Yeah, so I've been playing Clair Obscura. I'm about, yeah, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 hours in at this point, and I have a few tips, you know, nothing super groundbreaking, but if you haven't played it yet, if you've been playing it, you know, this is probably old news to you, but if you haven't played it yet, you know, or are just starting playing it, this might help you out. So first of all, when you are defending, you have two options. You have your dodge and you have your parry. Now, if you parry an enemy and you're able to parry every single attack in their combo, you're going to do a counter attack. So parry is great. Also, if you parry, for each attack you parry in that combo, you're going to get 1 AP, which you can then use on your skills. So of course, parry is great. Dodge just gives you a slightly bigger window. So, you know, you're not going to get any benefits up from it other than that it's a little bit easier not to take damage. But there's also perfect dodge, and perfect dodge is, you know, why is perfect dodge better than dodge? Well, it doesn't give you anything. So, you know, some people might wonder, well, what's the purpose of perfect dodge? Well, it actually does kind of serve a purpose. The window for perfect dodge is identical to the window for parry. So if you're facing new enemies that you haven't faced before, it might be a good idea to use dodge at first, because as you use dodge, it's safer. And then as you get better with the dodge and you start nailing your perfect dodges more often, then you can switch to your parry, because now you've got the timing down. So perfect dodge or looking for dodge, or, you know, getting that perfect dodge is a great way to practice for your parries. It's a safer way to practice for your parries. So, you know, make use of that. Don't undercut dodge just because it doesn't have any other benefits. Another thing is that Luna, the second character you're going to unlock, she does get a healing spell fairly early on that you can unlock. And in this game, items are limited. So basically, it's very similar to what you have like with your flasks in Dark Souls, where you visit the bonfire, you replenish your flasks, then you go out and then you use them. And once they're gone until you replenish them at the bonfire. Well, here it's very similar, where, you know, you go to a camp and you rest. And when you rest, you get all your items back. But then, you know, you go out and then you use up your items. And once they're gone, they're gone. You know, you can't go to a store and buy more items. Their items are, you know, set. And you just have to replenish them at the camp. So, you know, if you're going on an expedition, you might think like, oh, you know, how do I, I don't want to waste all my items. I want to conserve them. Well, a great way to do that is because, as I said, Luna has a healing that she earns very early on. And I believe it costs 3 AP, and you start every fight with 4 AP. So what you can do is with her first turn is you can heal people. So as you're going through, you can use your first turn with her to heal people. And then, you know, if you can eliminate your enemies in the first turn, or if you're able to dodge them or whatnot, it's a great way to keep your momentum up without having to use your items, because you can just, you know, you can heal infinitely if you do it that way. So that's kind of a small little tip, you know, not the best one. However, there's a second side to that tip, and that is that a lot of enemies, especially these kind of super enemies that you're going to see in the world, they're going to say like, oh, that's a bigger one, or you make some sort of comment on it. Those enemies, a lot of them are really strong. And also later on in the game, I've seen a lot of people saying that, you know, the parry and the dodge mechanic is crucial, because a lot of enemies, especially if you're not putting, you know, stats into vitality and defense, are going to one-shot you. That's just how it's going to be. So, you know, healing might not be the best option. So, you know, if you're getting to a point where you're facing enemies that are one-shotting you over and over and over again, keep that in mind and build, feel free to swap out those heals for something else, because they're not going to do you much good if you're just going to die in one shot anyway. So that's a little bit on the other side of that tip. Also, though, when you are facing off new enemies, something you can do is you'll see at the top of the screen, it'll often announce what kind of attack the enemy is doing. So it'll say like, you know, blah, blah, blah is doing a trick attack, or blah, blah, blah is doing a 5 move combo. So it will sometimes tell you how many attacks there are going to be in the combo. So, you know, if you know, like the enemy's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or something like that. So if you're paying attention to the top of the screen, you know what kind of attack they're going to be coming at you with every single time. So that's going to help a lot in knowing, you know, am I going to have to parry, you know, because I've done this a couple times, you know, where I'm like, okay, I parry them 3 times. All right, we're good. And then there's just one last kind of sucker punch at the end. And I was like, ah. But, later on, I'm looking at the top of the screen. I see it, this is going to be a 4-thing combo. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I know something else is coming. Wait for it. So, pay attention to what it's saying at the top of the screen because that's going to be useful. And the last thing is, this was a bit confusing to me at first. Maybe other people figured it out pretty quickly. But your weapons derive your power from stats. So you're going to notice that your weapon will say like, a B or a C or a D on certain stats. Well, that doesn't mean that it's enhancing your stats. That means that the weapon is enhanced by those stats. So when you're building your character, you don't have to think like, oh, okay, this guy's supposed to be a tank, right? So I'm going to build on his vitality and his defense. Or, this character is going to be kind of a more of a DPS kind of character. So I'm going to focus on might and agility. You don't need to do that. You can build everybody for basically any kind of build you want them to give. And then just keep that in mind because, there's going to be a weapon. You're probably going to find a weapon at some point that's going to benefit from that stat build. So, consider, like go through your weapons and, look at which ones because you're going to be able to upgrade them. So find a weapon that's going to match the way you want to build your stats and then focus on that weapon. So that's going to help you out a lot. So those are just some tips that I kind of picked up early on. So just wanted to share them, So
Thanks. I mean, those sound really useful, and those are the kinds of things that I think when people sort of start a game or like they've seen the hype, like, okay, I'm gonna FOMO in, and they go into the game and like, oh my God, I watched Adam's video and now I feel a lot more comfortable and I can enjoy the first beginning moments of a game. Where sometimes like I start a game and I didn't see any tips and I'm like, oh God, there's so many games that I've just quit in the first 1 hour or 2 hours just because something happened and I didn't enjoy it. I'm like, okay, screw this game, and I never played it. Okay, and moving on to my last like physical story of the day is going to be The Girl Who Steals Time. So you guys know I love my relaxing games. I love my cozy games. And this really caught my eye because this is a game where when you start playing, you can switch between 14 different occupations in a game whenever you want, right? So if you want to be a cook, you can start being a cook, then you can be a furniture manufacturer, or you want to be someone who does stuff in a dungeon, right? And I guess this is the idea of the game. The game is called The Girl Who Steals Time, right? It's a step into this slow life RPG. Again, something I love. I love things that are slow and not too hectic and give me time to sort of relax, right? Freely switch between 14 unique jobs, so-called quote-unquote lives, and enjoy in a carefree life in a fantasy world. Fish, cook, shape the island to your liking. It's got some cool stuff from other games, the Dragon Quest Builder series, where you can sort of destroy land and build land again. And again, sort of like a relaxing game as well. Team up with friends to battle monsters across the vast world. Again, you don't have to do multiplayer. Single player is totally fine. I have not seen enough sort of footage about like how does the switching work. Is it like clicking something? Is it going into a menu somewhere? So I don't know enough about that. This definitely gives me Animal Crossing Dinkum vibes. Again, go back to an old video I talked about, and it's an Australian sort of farming life simulator game that again also very popular on Steam if you're looking for something as well. Not graphically demanding, definitely also again Animal Crossing vibes, which Animal Crossing came out. The latest Switch version came out 6 or 7 years ago. So again, it's going to run on a wide variety of hardware. This was originally supposed to be a Switch exclusive, and then it's expanded to PlayStation, to Xbox, to Steam. So keep an eye out for it there. This was supposed to come out last year in October, then was delayed. And from the videos I watched, everyone was like, yeah, this is delayed because it's coming out on the Switch 2. I have not heard anything about that yet. I mean, looking at the game, I don't see a demand for it to come out on a Switch 2. The studio, again, very similar to what Adam and I have talked about, and I guess for our last few weeks, is this studio has had like no noticeable games. Beyond this did come out. They did come out with a mech game that supposedly is famous in Japan. That was not famous in the West. On Steam, it has like 625 reviews at the moment, positive reviews. I know a bunch of YouTubers are like, hey, people, play this game because the Megaton Musashi. Again, a bunch of YouTubers like, play this game. This is awesome. And it looked awesome. This is also on my Switch wish list of games to play. I haven't played it just yet. So hopefully this game will sort of bring a lot more attention to the developer. But this is something definitely keep on your list if you're looking for something relaxing to play. You know, that loop of gather resources, build something, gain experience, right? I love that stuff. I love these sort of games. Disney's Dreamlight Valley, Stardew Valley as well. All these sort of games just sort of do it for me. Keep this on your wish list. This is coming out, or is it, if it's not already out, I believe it's coming out in a few weeks. If not, it's coming out in roughly about 3 weeks, so 21st of May. So, and I imagine this is going to be like a $30 game at the moment, very similar to Clear Obscure, great value for money. Especially, I mean, at least with this game, expected to be like at least, 90 hours of gameplay at that. Or it could be like a lot of the Stardew Valley people who played this game for 500, 600, 700 hours at a time. But yeah, that is the Fantasy Life, the girl who steals time. Let me know down in the comments. Have you heard about this? Have you followed this game? Do you know the developer? Did you play Megatan Musashi? That's a game I think I'm going to transfer it from my Nintendo Switch list to the Steam list to play this on my Steam Deck, despite being angry about the Steam Deck yesterday. But that is it. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, no, it looks interesting. This kind of looks kind of like was it Dragon Quest Builders or something, kind of Minecraft kind of thing going on with the constructing of the environment as well as what everything you're doing. Having the multiple. I don't know. I've played so much Final Fantasy 14. When I hear like, oh, switch job classes on the fly, immediately that's what I think of is Final Fantasy 14. I'm like, yeah, that's great.
You
I love
job classes on the fly in Final Fantasy?
Not in combat or in dungeons, but in the world, yeah. I mean, you can queue up for a dungeon. You say like, I want to be a warrior, and then you're stuck as a warrior throughout that dungeon. But then once you've completed the dungeon, you can be like, all right, now I want to switch to a scholar, and then be a scholar.
Hey, and when you switch classes, does your level reset in that particular class?
Yeah, you level each class, or each job individually. Yeah.
So like, if I was a level 20 warrior and I switched to become a priest, my warrior would still be at level 20 when I went back to being one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, got it. That's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, Adam, your final tidbit of today. Tell us, Wu-Tang Fallen Feathers finally has a release date.
Yeah, so I saw this like literally as I was setting up for today. I kind of sat down and I'm like, okay, let me just look real quick at the news. So Wu-Tang Fallen Feathers, actually, it showed up in my I got an announcement on my phone. It said like, oh, hey, this game is now up for pre-order. Its release date is going to be July 24th. Apparently there's a new trailer you can check out as well. I haven't had time to check it out yet, but I'm going to check it out as soon as the stream is done. But yeah, July 24th for Wu-Tang Fallen Feathers. I know I've mentioned it before. Antoine's mentioned it before. It is kind of a Chinese Souls-like, set in kind of like a mystical China thing where feathers and there's a disease that turns people into birds or something like that. I don't have any notes in front of me, so I'm going off of memory here, and that's probably a bad idea because I have a bad habit of saying the wrong words when I try to do that. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Yeah, Wu-Tang Fallen Feathers finally has a release date. So if you were interested in it, good to know.
What's the pre-order price?
That's a good question. I'm going to have to open up my PlayStation app real quick here then. Do I still have it on that page? Okay, hang on.
I can cut out this part, so it's all good.
Yeah, no, I have to do a search then. Wu-Tang.
Are you going to play Wu-Tang?
I don't know. I mean, it's in that... Okay, so in Taiwan, it's 1,280.
That's cheap. That's like that's $40.
Yeah. So yeah, available July 24th. You can pre-order it now. Your pre-order gets a bonus. So you just get like a costume set and an axe, and you get a skill upgrade. So, but I forgot what your question was.
My question was the price, basically, and you answered.
Oh, okay,
yeah. I'm still very curious because I still think game developers are going to move towards the switch to pricing model for games.
Well, yeah.
Nintendo did it first.
Well, that, and I mean, like back when PlayStation's, games used to be $60 and then PlayStation switched to 70 and everyone's like, oh, PlayStation, why are you doing this? And then everybody switched to 70. So, you know it's going to go up. You know it's going to go up eventually. You just need somebody to pop the cork, and once somebody does, everyone's going to start following. So I mean, last time it was PlayStation that ended up doing it. This time it's Nintendo that's doing it. You know, who knows what it'll be next time, but that's just how it goes. But as you were asking if I was going to play it, and I am interested in it, but I don't know. So yeah, it's going to depend on what other games I'm going to be wanting to play at the moment, because it is a Souls-like, and I do enjoy those, but sometimes those can be a bit time-consuming, and I might be in the mood for some shorter stuff instead of just some long kind of thing. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm going to wait and see what kind of developments we get on it. So because there's also Crimson Desert coming out at some point, and that looks really good too.
Got it. Okay. Let's see. We
got through everything.
We did get through everything. So we got my 3, your 2 is 5. We've got Statistically Obscure 6, Race of Wuchang 7. Okay, cool. That is good. That will give us the 3 long videos and at least 7 shorts. Okay, we're good. Cool. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'm just making sure because now we're back to sort of this schedule that I have at least 7 short videos to do. Especially Adam's been blowing up our Instagram with his Tomo Endless Blue and unintentionally Hammerfall video, which is our most viewed video ever.
You have one brain fart and it haunts you forever.
It doesn't haunt you, but like Adam's embarrassed, but I don't think he should be embarrassed because he's like, people get viral for all sorts of different things. And this is like our first truly viral video. 112,000 views is just crazy. And people are asking, like people ask like on their comment, like, does Adam have an accent? I'm like, that's pretty freaking obvious.
Everyone has an accent. But I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to give me an out to say like, oh, that's why he said fall. I think they're trying to give me an out.
That connection right there. I was
I think they're trying to be like, oh, you said that wrong. Is it because you have an accent? Yeah, is that why? Or are you just dumb? Or are you just a tourist, as a lot of people like to say.
All right, thank you everyone for tuning in. Don't forget to check out the long videos, the more cut down videos. Share them with your friends, share them with your family, share them with everyone. Post it on Facebook and Instagram. Particularly on Instagram, because Instagram is the #3 largest social platform in the world as of March 2025. And with that factoid, I will see you guys next week at the same time, same place.
Yeah, see you later.